Longtime colleague when I was at Fortune magazine, Eric Schoenfeld, who's now writing with us at Techonomy. He was many years the editor of TechCrunch. Eric Schoenfeld, please come out to lead your session on the DIY economy. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Let me just quickly introduce our panelists. Please have a seat. To my immediate left is Grady Burnett, who's Vice President of Global Marketing at Facebook and lived in Ann Arbor for many years, so he's a local. Mark Hatch is the CEO of TechShop, which has a recent facility that opened up here, not too far from the airport. We'll be talking about what we do there. Danae Ringelman is the co-founder and COO of Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding platform. And David Tenhab is the CEO of Pinocchio, which is a very interesting platform for manufacturing. What we're going to talk about today is the do-it-yourself economy and how different tools have become available to entrepreneurs beyond just what we've become accustomed to in the internet world. So the cost of producing a startup, has declined dramatically in the past decade, and we've seen this flowering of internet and mobile startups. But we're also starting to see many of those same tactics and techniques being used by startups in other industries, and particularly in manufacturing. And I think it goes all along the chain from ways to fund your product with Indiegogo, ways to prototype your product with TechShop, ways to manufacture it, and ways to market it and to reach out to your customers, after fact with social, Facebook and other social streams. So let's talk a little bit about sort of where we are today. Obviously, a lot of people talking about Detroit in this election season and bringing back manufacturing jobs, but I almost think that misses the point. Like, yes, we want to shore up the manufacturing base, but in my mind, what's more interesting is what's the new form of manufacturing that is being opened up, and what are we seeing here in terms of the types of people who can now consider themselves manufacturers? Is it possible to create GM in your garage now? Mars?
Absolutely. So some things that people don't necessarily realize today, the cost of a computer numerically controlled milling machine, CNC tool, has come down something on the order of 95%, primarily, again, because of Moore's Law. Most importantly, software companies like Autodesk are making the software so much easier to use that we are training people how to use these tools in 2 or 3 class sessions. Now, they're not world-class millwrights at the end of a 2 or 3 class session. But if you're Patrick Buckley and you want to do an iPad case and you come in and take 3 classes, 90 days later, you could have, just like he did, $1 million company. They did $3 million in the second year, $10 million this year. Square did the original 3 prototypes at TechShop on the benches, and they're doing just fine. So the chasm has just gotten much smaller. Typically, when you do a software startup, now you need $25,000, $50,000, $75,000. Well, now you can do a hardware startup for the same kind of money. We've had dozens and dozens and dozens of crowd-funded projects come through, from $10,000 to $100,000 that actually got them all the way through the prototyping stage to their first run in manufacturing. That is new to the world. You've never been able to do that for those kind of price points.
So, Danae, there's all kinds of amazing projects on Indiegogo, everything from products to even my favorite one, recent one, is the building the Tesla museum. And I think you told me backstage about the what is it, the bug blaster?
Bug assault.
The bug assault, yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the products and companies that have emerged on Indiegogo, and how do you see it opening up these opportunities to people who maybe would have just been hobbyists in the past?
Sure. So what he just mentioned was the bug assault, which was a few young entrepreneurs who were passionate about keeping bugs away. Who's had that problem before? Flies festering, yeah. So what they did is they put their creative minds to work, and they came up with this awesome contraption to, in a very benign fashion, shoo away flies. And what they ended up doing was they used Indiegogo, which leveraged Facebook and all the social media. They ended up raising almost $600,000 by offering their product as a way to raise the money to actually go build the product. So what was fascinating about that, as well as other, we've had campaigns raise money for 3D printers. We've had campaigns raise money to make their next film. We've even had campaigns that are doing charity or cause-related stuff. So people funded their baby. We had a couple who couldn't afford IVF in vitro fertilization treatment, and so they went in Indiegogo and they raised $10,000 to have a baby. So what's so incredible about this, and what we were talking about—
Does the crowd get to pick the name?
You know, the perks. You can't actually give away the baby as
For
a perk. I think that might be
$5,000.
illegal.
You get to choose the
But
name.
what's so powerful, especially from products and services, is that we had a campaign who two young women wanted to create solar-powered, environmentally friendly inflatable lights that they could give away in a Tom Shoes model to the developing world. So a lot of women and children die every day or get injured every day from the kerosene lamps, which is the popular way to light your homes across the world. And so they came up with a very eco-friendly, cheap and affordable solar-powered system to light people's homes across the world. And they ended up raising $60,000 in Indiegogo, the bug assault people, the 600. But what was true for both of those cases is that because it's a product, and because they're in a way pre-selling the item, because people who contribute to the idea and the project actually get a perk in return, and oftentimes for a product-based crowdfunding campaign, the actual product that you're trying to raise money to go build is the perk that you deliver. They ended up mitigating the risk of overfunding or underfunding their production because they raised just enough money to produce just enough product that was actually purchased in their crowdfunding campaign. So if that makes any sense, it's—
Right, the pre-selling. And there's very much a social aspect to this, which gets to, I mean, Grady, maybe you can address this, because you sort of see this, the marketing starts before the product even exists, right? The marketing starts with the core group of maybe what you call early adopters, right, who can be your most loyal customers, and then they kind of cheer you along all along the way. And then once you have the product, a lot of people are finding that the Facebook, is a great distribution mechanism for actually, connecting with new customers and getting people to recommend those products down the line.
Yeah, I think that distribution is incredibly important. I mean, if you think about how we always make decisions, we make those by what our friends, what our family, what our coworkers do. And what the platform of Facebook allows you to do is actually engage that community in a word of mouth at scale way that has never existed before. So you can really activate those friendships, those people most passionate, and have them tell your story in their voice and augment your marketing message. I think that's really powerful. So that if you think about a crowdfunding idea that I saw recently, actually yesterday, was I went to the University of Michigan. There's a football player, Martavius Odoms, who played there a couple of years ago, who graduated and, like most college athletes, is going into the workforce and not playing professional sports. And he's jumped back into his community in Florida and has a new business called Pound Eating that is all about sustainable farming and eating healthy in his community that has not done that historically. And he's doing it through crowdfunding, right? He's actually funded this through a group of friends. He's distributed it through Facebook to people that have like interests. And, as a result, I contributed to that. And I'm excited about it. And that's how increasingly these things are happening.
What kinds of businesses are you seeing on Facebook? I think you mentioned to me a woman who started making toys or puppets.
Yeah, there's a variety. So it's such a range, which is great. I mean, you think about, and it always starts from a personal set of interests. I mean, almost every business story on Facebook starts with a person connecting with their friends on their page, talking about a set of interests, realizing, wow, maybe I have a business opportunity here, creating a page, and going from that. So the woman we talked about was a woman named Brandy in North Carolina who has a business called Lolly Wally Doodle. Right. And it is a kids' clothing business, and it's based in North Carolina. They basically distribute e-commerce platform all on Facebook. They do that through the Southwest, Southeast, and Midwest. And what she did is she was just, sewing was a hobby at first. Her husband lost his job. She made it more of a career. She started doing more and more projects, realized she could build a business, funded that through the community and through a bunch of different opportunities and distributing through Facebook. And she found her entire customer base that way. She found her entire workforce, which is now 80 people.
80 people.
Yeah, so she's built a business of 80 people
and
now.
She doesn't have a website. She just sells through
all
Facebook.
through Facebook. And she does that all through Facebook at this point. And she's found a community of people that care and that are passionate about her products, share those with her friends, share them with their friends, and that network builds, and she's shipping product all over the country now.
Right. David, tell us a little bit about some of the products that you're seeing on your platform, and how would you sort of compare and contrast it to Tech Shop in terms of where in the cycle would you, as an entrepreneur, maybe take advantage of your platform versus some of the facilities that are available at Tech Shop?
Sure. So the way that we fit into the ecosystem is that we enable distributed manufacturing. So we enable people to reach out to not only their local community, which is where Tech Shop is really strong, but also in a global market. And so we allow people to produce product next to the customer. That's kind of our goal. And what we're starting to see is that people are kind of falling through a funnel. They're using the crowd funding model to determine the appropriateness of the product. Is someone going to buy it? Are they interested in it? They'll do early prototypes at Tech Shop, and then if they are thinking on a global basis, they'll use a platform like ours to then push that product out into the globe. So that's definitely what we're seeing shape up. And that ecosystem didn't exist 5 years ago. I mean, it really didn't. It's emerged over the past 3 years. This idea that you can come up with an idea, you can reach out to your market, determine whether or not they want it, and then just fall through the prototyping and then mass manufacturing side of things like that. That's the exciting thing.
So we've been talking a lot about jobs at this event, and everything you're talking about, is very positive and encouraging, because now anyone can come up with a product idea that needs to be manufactured. They don't need $1 million facility that's available to them. But the flip side is that, okay, once they prototyped it and they found their early customers and they're scaling up, past 500 or 1,000 items, don't they then just go back into the traditional scale manufacturing industry that we have? And does that create jobs here or abroad?
Yes, they do.
Is this a solution for the job issue that we have in manufacturing?
And it is because this is one of these things. This is like the internet, right? When you started using the internet, when you started getting email, it was kind of like, why can't I use this for everything else? What we've done is encourage people to think about doing this in a new way. Where we've kind of stepped in is that we've removed the complexity of talking to people overseas. So there is this interim step where people, as they go to volume, need to do that still. But what we're finding is that people are starting to think critically about everything in their supply chain, and that includes whether or not they can use local resource to do what they want to do. So what we are starting to see is that people are bringing jobs back locally because it just kind of makes sense to them. It's, in many cases, less complex than sending stuff overseas.
I think there's some important things going on with supply and demand curves as well. So specifically, because these robotic tools are so cheap relative to where they were 20 years ago, you're now able to manufacture things in short and moderate runs at price competitive places that we've never been able to do before. So the demand curve is literally being shifted because of the ability to manufacture. And so now we can do short runs, better meet what the customer wants, and move a lot of these jobs back to the US. Now the job isn't the labor that I just eliminated from the Chinese worker on the line and have a robot do it here. The job is on the design side, imagining what it is that somebody wants and then being able to deliver it for a cost-effective manner. I believe that's a huge opportunity for manufacturing in the United States. I mean, and we've seen, like, the world's fastest electric motorcycle was built on site. They're never going to sell 1 million of these superpower bicycles, motorbikes. You know, their objective is to get it to 400, 500, 1,000. It's kind of the Tesla of motorcycles. A liquid-cooled server cabinet that was launched. Now those could actually, they could produce thousands of those, and they'll probably be manufactured in a distributed manner. Again, this is another example where, yeah, you could get the cheap iPad cover from a Chinese manufacturer for $5 or $10. But for $60, you can have a beautiful iPad case that the President of the United States carries. Now, Patrick's never going to do 1 million of these.
Is he still manufacturing them at
He's
Pet Show?
manufacturing in San Francisco, yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing, right? People are starting to build out the narrative around the product. You know, knowing the person who made the product's an important part of this, this removal of opacity of information around product. That's what we've kind of suffered from for 30 years. That's what's allowed us to push stuff overseas, because it's kind of like, well, it's still in my shop, so it's made local, right? No, it's not. What people are starting to really question is, or thirst for, is the story. They know the guy who, I mean, Mark tells that story with real pride because he knows the guy, you know, and that's what we find from our customers as well. Their customers know them and have a personal relationship to them, and that's vitally important because it's about, you know, reinvigorating a social contract again.
Well, I think I would attribute that to, like, Facebook as helping raise the bar with the expectation that you should know what your money is going to, or what you're funding, or what you're buying, because now it is so easy to know the story behind the story. If you don't know the story behind the story, you think the worst. You think the worst, right? And so, I mean, we're talking about products. You know, we have a great example on our site is this. It's a food product business. It's a young woman who, because we're talking about jobs, she had started a gluten-free bakery because she is celiac and she had no good products out on the market for her to eat. And so she went to the bank, got a little $10,000 loan to get the business started. It was just her and her friend. They literally made gluten-free macaroons out of the back of their truck, or their garage. And they started, getting a little bit of traction. And then they had the opportunity to expand their production, hire people, and get their product into a regional grocery store, which was a huge opportunity. The only thing is they needed to update their packaging, which was going to cost $15,000. And so for a small business where every single dollar you earn, it goes back into working capital to help grow, they didn't have $15,000 sitting on the side. So what did they do? They went back to the bank, said, hey, we have this huge opportunity to grow our business and take the next step. And the bank would be successful. And it's not that the bank didn't want to, it's just their risk return models didn't work. So what did they do? They went onto Indiegogo and they raised the $15,000 by pre-selling macaroons, building their customer base, using the current customer base and building it beyond that in 3 weeks. And within 3 months, they were distributing their product across 40 states in America. And now they're hiring people, and now they're, like, growing business, and it's all.
We talk a lot about social proof in investing, right? Ron Conway invested, so that's safe for me to invest, right? And what you're describing makes me think about sort of social proof for consumers, right? There's 600 people put up some money and help this woman raise $15,000. There must be something there, and I think that Facebook, is part of that. Like, you kind of see how many people like something, or how many people, give it their stamp of approval. And this is kind of, the next step in the economic realm.
And we're all social beings, right? We always have been. And I think it's really interesting if you think sort of pre-industrial revolution, you lived in a community around a group of people, your family all lived there, you shopped at the same place every week, and they knew what you cared about. And the industrial era let us do so many different things, engage in different cultures, travel to new places, meet different things, learn about new interests. But what it didn't allow is that personal connection. So what I feel that Facebook and sort of the social world around it has done is really brought those personal relationships back to the center. So businesses can be personal and they can actually have a voice. And as a consumer, you can actually feel like you matter and you actually count and have a voice in a way that you haven't in a long time. And that creates opportunities for the business. It creates opportunities because, I mean, there's businesses that will use Facebook to understand how they want it, what product they want to build. Like there's a little stuffed animal business called Squishable that's in New York now, started in DC, and they literally do all of their product design through Facebook. They'll basically say, should we create a shark or a narwhal next? Should it be red or should it be blue? And that will actually happen there, and people will feel a connection to that product because they helped make it. So I imagine you guys see some of that as well. So, and businesses like Fab.com as well. That is a business that started out with flash sales, but it's really connected to a particular designer who might be putting a few hundred things together, or a few thousand things at most, and having that ability to have that connection, go back and look for that person's design. That personal connection matters a lot, and I think it really drives job growth and business growth.
Well, something that you mentioned, Mark, was how you're seeing a lot of businesses like Dodo being able to produce things in short runs, right? And I think there's a bigger issue here when you talk about manufacturing, the manufacturing base, right? For the last 100 years, it's all been about scale manufacturing, and that's where you get your economies.
Yeah, but scale is a relative thing,
But
right?
you're saying that that's changing.
Yeah, well, one, it's fundamentally changed. I mean, let's talk about scale, right? How many Boeing aircraft did Boeing sell last year? 1 million? 500,000? 10,000? 5,000? Hundreds. So that's not mass manufacturing. That's actually hardcore, one at a time, build it. They have 200,000, 250,000 employees. GE is the same thing. The aircraft engine division, their train division. How many train engines did they sell last year? 100? 500? So there are hundreds of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars being manufactured in the United States with high-paying jobs using these CNC kind of tools. Now, what's cool is these tools have come down and they're much more accessible and easy to use. Here's another fun example. So David Lang came in about a year ago and said, I've never made anything in my life. And so I'm going to write a blog about it, and I'm going to take a bunch of classes, and I want to see if I can figure out how to make things. 9 months later, he's running an underwater remote-controlled ROV company that has been crowdfunded and is using Pinocchio to help do the manufacturing. And he's already sold hundreds of them. Now, it's not 1 million, but do we really need 1 million remote-controlled underwater vehicles? I don't know, maybe we do. But for $200 or $300, you can now own something that will kind of go around at the beach. It's a new kind of fun toy. Actually, it's not a toy. NOAA's interested, NASA's interested, the DoD's interested. I mean, they got orders from all over the place. And this is from a guy who literally didn't know how to make anything this time last year. We are living in a completely different space than we were 5, 10, 15 years ago. And he leveraged social media like crazy. He used the blog, he used Facebook, he used his friends, he used crowdfunding, he used access to our facilities. He's using Pinocchio. It's a very interesting space. And it's not just about, are you going to sell 1 million units in plastic injection molded in China? Yes, you're going to do some of that stuff. I mean, I think Square probably gets their little dongle made in China. But there are plenty of products and plenty of spaces to be able to create products locally that people want locally.
But the point is also that a lot of the barrier to entrepreneurship is, as we've been hearing, is just getting started. Yep. And even if you can't, keep using these tools, if you do have to make 1 million, then that's fine. We know how to make 1 million widgets, right? And what's really fascinating about all this is that the barriers to entrepreneurship, not just in the digital realm, but in the physical realm, are going away, right? I mean, so what would you say to, a lot of manufacturing jobs have gone away, and a lot of skilled labor, people are out of job, and people talk about retraining, but it seems to me like if you have an idea, you can just
file your provisional patent and launch the baby.
There's going to be we talk about this in music, how like the democratization of the music industry has actually enabled kind of a rising tide of the middle class musician. So no, you're not Britney Spears, but you can actually make a living now selling enough music online, maybe make a few $100,000 a year and actually live off your music, which those people 15 years ago, were working at coffee shops by day and playing coffee shops by night to make a living. So there's going to be a rising class, I think, of entrepreneurs. I was just in the cab coming over here talking to my taxi driver. And I was like, how's life going? He's like, it's good. I wish I could make a little more money, blah, blah, blah. And he's working hard. And we started talking about ideas. And I'm like, well, would you start a business if you could? He's like, well, now that you asked, actually, there's this incredible pain point where taxi drivers, we drive around all day, every day, but it's never easy to find a bathroom. So I actually have this great idea to create this portable bathroom with a tent that just pops up. And he went crazy giving me all the details of this amazing business plan. And I'm like, why don't you go do it? He's like, well, I just need a little bit of money. I'm like, there's a thing called Indiegogo. He's like, well, I need to help design. I'm like, there's a thing called Tech Shop. I'm like, he's like, holy crap, it's actually possible. So we're in this world where there's all these ideas and they've just been repressed and they've never seen the light of day because the mechanisms to raise the money, to design the products, to distribute the products, to market the products were never there, but now they are. And so what I think we're going to see is maybe less about a lot of the jobs, or the people who were employees before are now going to become entrepreneurs, and we're going to see this rising middle class of entrepreneurs.
I think this process of demystification is just it's happening, and people they sit on the edge of that rabbit hole, right? And you go, hey, you can make something, and then they slip down the rabbit hole, and it's the casing, or it's some electronics, or it's the software, and then all of a sudden it's everything. And so it's not only the manufacturing of big things. At some point in time, these people go, well, hang on, why can't I make this microprocessor? We're seeing that people are tumbling down that rabbit hole, and they're going, well, I can make that bit and that bit and that bit and that bit, and they understand exactly what's going on. What's happened over the past 30 years has been that mystification. We've needed that mystification to keep the system working. The system hasn't supported people. The macaroon story, deep inside of it, has got a really important point. The bank wouldn't give them the loan.
But is it mystification, or economists will call it specialization, right? Should that
it's
person in tech shop be making the microchip?
I think it is mystification. I think there is this thing of, that's too hard to do. We would.
It used to be.
It used to be, that's right. The education system in many respects encouraged that.
Yeah.
You would go and get a postgraduate degree to work out how to make something, an MBA maybe. You don't need that anymore. The way of the tools are there for you to engage automatically now. You just need to plug them together, and there are these stories that are emerging that allow you to route round the existing systems. They don't support us, and they haven't supported these sorts of entrepreneurs, but our tools do, and that's the really vital bit.
I feel like the best thing Michigan could do, or the city of Detroit, is literally just a marketing campaign like Nike. You can do it. Everybody has ideas, and I was just in Berlin. Actually, I know there's a panel on Berlin versus Detroit, which is interesting, and you can feel the energy building. There's a serious inferiority complex over there of Germans versus the US. They feel like we're faster, more innovative, all this kind of stuff. But what you're starting to sense is they're starting to build this confidence that they can actually do it as well. And we're starting to see more and more entrepreneurship come out of here. And I feel like that's all Detroit and Michigan needs, is a big campaign saying you can actually do it, because here's all your tools, and it's just a matter of you deciding, yes, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna try. So,
yeah, to put it in context, right? Pinocchio comes from New Zealand. New Zealand is literally on the edge of the world. We got on an airplane and flew over here and started the company. Michigan and Detroit is embedded inside of the United States. Those resources are literally on your doorstep. There's no excuse not to just do it. It might not look like $1 million company to start off with, but it'll turn into something like that, you know?
So if anyone has any questions, we've got microphones here. Line up, and I'll call on you. So, you know, one thing that you touched upon here is sort of these custom runs, right? And people have been talking a lot about mass customization for a long time. It's something that large corporations, you know, have mastered to one degree or another. But in a way, it kind of fits in with what you were talking about, you know, everything having a story or the consumer feeling that they have a connection to, you know, to the product. And when products are, you know, I don't want to say they're handcrafted, but they're custom made, right? Or they can even be custom designed, you know, for your specific needs. It's almost we're going back to some of the connection that we had, you know, almost pre-industrial, right?
Well,
where people were.
I think there is a clear resurgence of valuing craftsmanship. Etsy.com is a great example. You know, a great website of handmade goods that people are making a living by producing things in their basements or a tech shop or in their living rooms and selling online. And again, these tools enable you, you know, the machine doesn't care how complicated it is. You just do your design and hit print and it starts to cut. And if you own the machine yourself, you can walk away. If you're at a tech shop, you got to stay there. But the ability to then quickly customize that so that it fits. I mean, you know, it's great. Autodesk has got a little app I can show you. I can design a small coffee table. Now, it doesn't look great, but I can design a coffee table in 30 seconds. It's just like zoop, 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 spin it around, give me the form. I can then go print it out. Now, this is cool because I'm a little bit tall, and it would be nice if it was customized to my legs. And IKEA doesn't do that for me. So it seems like everything comes out at the same height. Wouldn't it be nice if, like, my furniture fit my body? Well, now you can do that, and there's zero incremental cost to it because you got to produce it anyway. You're going to probably use these types of machines. So I don't know. Yes, there's an artisanal and craft component, and that particularly works well when you're talking about social media and so forth. But these tools are agnostic. So if you're building a remote-controlled video conference telepresence robot, and you're going to do 1,000 of them, and you're going to charge $20,000 a pop, you know, that's a nice business. It's not really artisanal or craft, but you can produce those things in short runs and make a great living at it.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to visit Tech Shop yesterday on the way from the airport, and there was a guy working on the laser cutter, and he had a piece of wood, and he was making like a game board, you know, and he could customize these game boards he was making a little, you know, side business off of it. And then there was another guy there who he had these two robot legs. He was trying to figure out how to make a bipedal robot that could walk and balance, and he hadn't gotten yet to the other parts of the robot because that's, you know, nobody has really figured out the bipedal part, but that's, you know, he's a guy here in Detroit, and he might figure it out.
One of our first members here in Allen Park was Luciano. He's an Italian, moved to Detroit, lost access to the tools when he moved. He got married and moved here, discovered us, and now he's got back to making these beautiful string bases.
Do we have that picture? If we can put it up there? Keep telling the.
Yeah,
there we
so
go.
you know, there's Luciano. You know, you're not going to make 1 million of those, right? But at $20,000 a pop and 8 to 10 of them a year, he can make a pretty decent living.
The thing about the customization and the craftsman story, you go back to Mark's example, right, is that it provides competitive advantage. If I was Mark's furniture maker, then I would make tables that fit him. That would give me a competitive advantage over the mass manufacturers because they don't care about Mark because he sits outside of the 95th percentile. So I think that's the other important thing about what's going on here.
And the
And
personal, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and the other element to customization is you can also price your product at true willingness to pay. Right. And so, I mean, we see that happening in crowdfunding with the perk model where, you know, we had two inventors that were tinkering in the garage and came up with this mobile accessory device. It was a really cool thing where you put your mobile phone into this base that they created. You put a marker on your shirt and you walk around and your mobile device follows you. Well, they got rejected by 43 VCs. to actually go prototype the thing, which is a shame. So they instead went on Indiegogo and raised the money to do it and got themselves going. But what they did is they offered different custom builds of this base. And through it, they maximized people's willingness to pay because they were willing to pay for that customization. So they got more money. They left less money on the table, I should say. And they validated their idea. And because of their campaign, they got the venture capitalists to call them back, the ones that originally rejected them, because it showed that there was a serious amount of interest. But it gets back to microeconomics, which is when you offer customization, you can actually optimize people's willingness to pay and not leave any money on the table, whether it's dead weight loss or consumer surplus.
And you can really start to really personalize that experience as you market and develop that next version of the product. I mean, the Etsy example is a great one. I'd encourage people to go on Etsy and not log in through Facebook the first time and then log in through Facebook the next time. So you can see what they do and you can start to play around and get to various interests, and they'll learn over time. And if you connect through Facebook, you'll all of a sudden start to see that these products are related to interests you care about, and it's really a very personal store to you. That you're much more likely to engage and buy things from.
Yep.
Have you ever played around with dynamic pricing, so that if you're one of the first 10 to donate, you get the product for $5, and then it goes up by $5 every?
Our customers do that all the time.
They do that.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
We have a question over here. Can you introduce yourself and ask the question?
I'm Chris Blauvelt, founder of Patronicity. We're a crowdfunding platform actually for local community. And we just wrapped up a campaign last night on Indiegogo, so thank you very much. My question, we'd be remiss to have a discussion with do-it-yourself entrepreneurship and crowdfunding without mentioning, of course, the Jobs Act. I get it asked all the time, and personally, I'm very skeptical of it. I'm skeptical because I think that it'll lead to a lot of very unhappy investors very quickly, and in the few cases of successful companies, a lot of legal battles and unfulfilled promises. And I think all the benefits you guys are talking about, like being able to have pre-sales of your items, that personal connection with your project creator and the donors and the community, you kind of miss out on all of that with equity-based crowdfunding. So I'd just be interested to hear the panelists' opinions on.
Yeah, is equity crowdfunding going to ruin it all?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, really.
Yeah, I've got pretty strong opinions on this. You can read my Washington Post opinion from last Friday. Look, we have managed to all but destroy the IPO market in the United States in the last 2 decades. We've had a 92% drop in $50 million and below IPOs in the last 20 years. 90%. That is absolutely ludicrous. The SEC in their discussion said, look, this gets technical, but the 506D has raised, it was like $800 million this last year, and the IPOs raised $1 billion. We don't see why that's so out of balance. Well, this is the peak of the pyramid. This is the bottom of the pyramid, and you're saying there's not a problem? This should be 5 times the size. You want a robust economy that creates jobs? You've got to unleash the entrepreneur. It's ludicrous. Yeah, so and let's get personal, right? So let's say that you're a kid from downtown Detroit, and you've got this great idea for modifying your skateboard, and you have to go to friends and family to raise $10,000? Really? Yeah, that's the reality right now. You got to go to friends and family. There's no way for him to legally reach out into a community, tap into engineers by putting a little blurb out, I'm raising money to try to get out of downtown Detroit. That is against the law. He could go to jail. Thank God that's changing.
For equity.
For equity, yeah. On the crowdfunding side, absolutely, you can do that. But sometimes it takes more than $100,000 to get something done. So absolutely, there will be fraud, there will be problems, and I am concerned about the orphans and the widows. But we have swung this pendulum so far that we have destroyed the entrepreneurial society that we've been the bedrock.
The IPO issue is not because of a lack of funding on the seed stage. It's because of other issues on the exit stage. That there's so. I mean, look at Facebook. You guys, you pushed off the IPO, for a long time, longer than you probably could have 10 years ago. Because it allowed you the freedom to, to keep developing your company as your CEO saw fit. And now you guys are public, and it's a different world, right? And a lot of companies are seeing that. They're seeing all the challenges that if Facebook is having issues with going public, I think that's a bigger deterrent than not being able to get funding on the seed side.
I disagree with the first comment. The reason you believe that seed stage is not the issue is because we've been living under this regime for 80 years that doesn't allow you to go out and find people to help get you equity. If we had that, and then we took it away, you would see this incredible reduction in entrepreneurship like we've seen in the last 20 years. I actually think we can use transparency and some other technologies. I mean, I love the fact that fake game guy got caught, inside of like $2,500. And so I think there's some tools that we can use today, technical tools.
Danae, we were talking about this backstage, right? Right now, and this gets back to this whole discussion of, the social proof. A lot of times people use these crowdfunding platforms, and it's not so much like, yes, they're going to get something in return. They're going to get a product. But they're doing it because they want to see this product or this company sort of come into existence. And it's almost like an altruistic motivation. And I think there is a danger that if it becomes a pure financial transaction, that you attract more people who are looking at it purely as a financial transaction, and they want that return, and that. There might be a tension between that and those motivations and some of the social motivations that we've seen create these amazing, things.
So to address your question, is equity crowdfunding going to ruin crowdfunding? We think no. I mean, we see there's 5 reasons in the world, universally, why people fund anything. 5, and we call them the 5 Ps. The first is passion. They just want to see the idea come to life, the person succeed. They want to do good. The second is participation. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They're working 9 to 5, have crazy kids at home, they sleep deprived, they would love to do their own dream project, but they just don't have the time, so they're going to live vicariously through somebody else and fund it with the price of a cup of coffee. The third is the perk. They want the e-maker, they want the printer, they want the rover underwater thing-a-majigger. The fourth is pride. They want to be recognized for being the 5th funder. It is crazy. With the Tesla campaign, people were talking about how they were funder number 25 of 21,000. They were there first, And then the 5th reason people fund is profit. So that's only 1 of 5, and currently the profit is illegal right now, but currently on Indiegogo, the first 4 are dynamically at play. People aren't just choosing one motivation. There's a mix happening at the same time. So there's no reason for us to believe why that wouldn't happen if we added the 5th P. And we actually think fundamentally that crowdfunding is a social experience. And anyone who has not funded something that way or raised money that way does not understand that until they actually do it. Because you're funding people via crowdfunding. You're not just funding ideas, but people. That said, with the equity crowdfunding, with the fraud, we've been at this for almost 5 years. And we've been, worried about fraud since day one. And the reason we're worried is because we want to be in business and we want to empower people across the world. And we don't want some stupid fraudster ruining it for everybody. So given that, we've been very committed to that, and we've developed the fraud algorithms, the machine learning, all that kind of stuff on the back end to not just provide a completely meritocratic platform where campaigns with the most activity get promoted based on their own actions, not based on what we think, but those same algorithms are what's protecting and catching stuff and pulling stuff off the platform.
So we have about 2 minutes left. Let's try to get at least one more question. You have a question?
My name is Award Johnson, but you can call me. I'm from Oakland University. My question is more of a clarification. So basically, what you're saying is that that a person starting up a business or inventing or innovating something, in order to become a successful entrepreneur, it's not so much the skills they have, but it's majority the tools that they are that they use or are in possession of.
I think it's a combination.
You have to have both. You have to have both.
The tools are an amplifier of the skills? So you might be really, really skillful. If you don't have access to the tools, it's hard work. If you've got access to the tools, you kick ass, right? You may not be so skillful. You may still have access to the tools. The end result may not be so great.
Yeah, what's different is that literally for the first time since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, you can have access to those tools for the cost equivalent of a daily Frappuccino. That has never happened before. And you can raise money now on platforms through a computer that you already own. And you can tap into distributed manufacturing environments that will help you to deliver. This is a new day.
And you can make more mistakes and not be completely destroyed by them, because you only lost the price of a cup of coffee, so you're going to try again.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we're out of time. We'll end it on that note. Thank you, the panelists. This was a great discussion. And thank you.
That was great, and I don't think you could have a better discussion.